Hey there, Stampers! Today I'm going to show you a great way to use up scraps of designer paper doing the Starburst technique, or sometimes it's called the Sunburst technique. So you can see it right here on this card, and it's just a bunch of pieces of designer paper around, and it kind of looks like a sunburst or a starburst. So to get started with this, what you're going to need is about 4 or 5 scraps of designer paper. And the ones that I'm using are 4 inches by 1.5 inches. So I'll bring my card back here. If your Starburst was going to be longer on your card, you would then need to make these pieces a little bit longer. So if you wanted to divide your card, say down here, and that's just so that your designer paper could reach from the point of your Starburst all the way to the corners and completely cover. Okay, so mine for our purposes are 1.5 by 4. And this will work for either a card in landscape orientation or portrait orientation. Okay, so what we want to do, you got your 4 or 5 scraps of this. Okay, I'm going to bring in my paper cutter and just show you. So you have your rectangles. We need to cut them into triangle shapes. So I'm going to line up the point here and the point here with the cutting line on my cutter and just give that a slice. So you end up with 2 triangles like this. Okay, now just to speed things along, I have a bunch already cut and ready to go here. Okay, so then you need a piece of cardstock for your card. Now this can be any color that you want that will go with your card. For our purposes today, I chose a Whisper White cardstock base, and I did Whisper White just because it matches with the designer paper that I chose. So had I decided to use maybe a designer paper that had a gray in it or something like that, I could use a gray here. I could even have gone with this Daffodil Delight color that's in my designer paper. It would be quite cute as well. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to draw a little line across, and that is just so that we can make sure that we can line up our Starburst pieces and make sure that they're in the right spot. So I'm going to grab a straight edge really quick. Okay, so I have my straight edge here, and I'm just going to go 2 inches. Now this is going to get covered up and you're not going to see it when the card is done. So I'll do a nice blue line so you can see exactly where that is. Okay, and then the next thing that you want to do, now I would recommend that you lay out and plan your card ahead of time. So the first thing you want to do is you want to plan where your Starburst is actually the points are going to meet. So on this card here, all the points meet right underneath here. That part will get covered up on your card, so it doesn't really matter where it is. I like the look of it off to one side or the other rather than right in the center. I just think that's a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So I'm just going to lay them out just so that I kind of have an idea of where they're going to go, and make sure that I place them in the right spots. Okay, so making sure that this one is going to cover my entire piece of cardstock here. And like I said, this little part right here is going to cover up. So if there's, maybe a little mistake down here, or they're not quite lined up quite right down there, that's going to get covered up in the end. Okay, nice like that. And you just keep going all the way around, like so. Okay, so you kind of get the idea of how it's going to go all the way around. So then you just kind of move that off to the side so you know what your pattern is going to look like. So that's how mine's going to finish up, just like that. Next you need some snail. Now you could use a glue stick for this step as well. I find snail works pretty easily for it. So you just want to snail all over, making sure you're right up to the edges, because that's what's going to keep your Starburst down. So I do all the edges, and then I do some strips in the middle, and just make sure it's all covered. Use a lot of snail so it's good and stuck down. And then you just simply start sticking down your pieces, like so. Okay, so I'll just go around really quick and stick them all down. You just want to butt them up against each other, the straight edges here, like this. And you just keep going all the way around your card until it's completely covered. I find this corner one here is the most difficult to get just perfect. After that, they all seem to fall into place nicely. And depending where your Starburst starts, it will look different. on each card, depending, oops. See, here's the only problem when you have all the snail. He doesn't want to lift up very easily. There we go. And just keep going all the way around until it's completely filled in. I'm going to put a little more snail right down in that corner there. Make sure it's good and stuck. Like that. Okay, so we have it all the way around, finishing off on our straight line that we drew. Okay, so we've got our little starburst. So next thing you want to do, you're going to flip it over and you're going to trim these pieces off. Now you can hang on to these pieces and use them for other stuff if they're big enough. Some of these ones on this side are quite a good size. You could use them again on another card quite successfully. Some of these smaller ones, maybe not so much. You can do this step with your paper cutter too. I just find it easier to use my snips and just follow the edge of the cardstock all the way around. Okay, like so. So it ends up looking like this. Now, to finish it off, you can do a variety of things here. You could do nothing and leave it and just put your focal point right there. I like to use a piece of ribbon or a little piece of glimmer paper or, you know, an embossed piece of cardstock, something like that. So for our purposes today, I'm going to use a piece of the new Calypso Coral seam binding. Not really a huge fan of orange or Calypso Coral, but it is quite cute on this card. Alright, so just like that, I'm going to stick it around like so. Okay, we're going to stick this onto a card base, and today I have an old olive card base for us to use. And I just pulled these colors out of my designer paper. So Calypso Coral and Old Olive are in the DSP, so that's what I chose to use. Okay, I'll stick this down. Alright. So you have your basic card and then you can just embellish how you like. So I'm going to bring my finished one back in so you can see. These two pieces were cut from the Chalk Talk framelit set. This one here was stamped with the Happy Big Day stamp, also from the Chalk Talk stamp set. So I just stamped it and cut it out with my framelit, and then I cut out a piece of Blackberry Bliss cardstock with my framelit as well. You can see right here I have some baker's twine. This is the crushed curry baker's twine. So it's got that little bit of yellow that goes through it, so that kind of plays on the yellow that's in some of these pieces of my designer paper. As a side note, this also looks really cute stamped in yellow. And then I finished it off with two little rhinestones. So there you go, that's how you would finish that one off. And now let me show you one more that I've done. So I did this one with my downline a while back. Okay, and so same idea. We used the Moonlight designer paper for this one, and I have a smoky slate piece of cardstock here. Rather than using the ribbon like I did here, I used a piece of glimmer paper. And then I did a flower for the focal point, and that's just done with the pansy punch. And I don't know if you can see it here in the video, but it kind of looks like suede. So to do that, I just crunched up the flower and crunched it and crunched it and crunched it until the layers of the cardstock started to peel apart. And then I just peeled them gently apart and stuffed them fuzzy side up. There's just a button in the middle, and wouldn't you know it, there's a circle punch that fits right in the middle of that metal button. And then again with just the little baker's twine loopy little embellishments. That seems to be pretty popular right now. So there you go, two different cards using the same technique. Great way to use up your DSP, and remember, for the month of July, the DSP is on sale. Buy 3 get 1 free. Happy shopping and happy creating!